Here's a reflection for Palm Sunday. In their book, The Last Week, Marcus Borg and John Dominic Crossan argue that on what we call Palm Sunday, there were actually two processions into the city of Jerusalem. Jesus wasn't the only person who made a triumphal entry. Pilate made one too. They describe Pilate's procession in very vivid language. They say it was a visual panoply of imperial power, cavalry on horses, foot soldiers, leather armour, helmets, weapons, banners, golden eagles mounted on poles, sun glinting on metal and gold, sounds, the marching of feet, the creaking of leather, the clinking of bridles, the beating of drums, the swirling of dust, the eyes of the silent onlookers, some curious, some awed, some resentful. Borg and Crossan argue that Pilate's procession wasn't just to show military power and to show who was in charge. Given that the emperor was also regarded as God, it could be considered to be a physical manifestation of a rival theology. It's in this context, Borg and Crossan say, that we should understand Jesus' entry into the city of Jerusalem. Pilate blusters his imperial way into Jerusalem from the west, as Jesus comes from the east, in a procession best characterized as an expression of the absurd, the comic, the foolish, the powerless, and the vulnerable. Borg and Crossan remark, what we often call the triumphal entry was actually an anti-imperial, anti-triumphal one, a deliberate lampoon of the conquering emperor entering a city on horseback through gates opened in abject submission. Jesus comes into the city on what Crossan describes as the most unthreatening, most unmilitary mount imaginable, a female nursing donkey with her little colt trotting along beside her. It's an image rich in the language of the prophet Zechariah, who depicts the coming of a non-violent king on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Well, what does that teach us now? Well, one thing I think I'm learning from it is that strength doesn't always look like Pilate's. Real strength often looks like the opposite, or sometimes it goes quite unnoticed. I've been reflecting on these two processions a lot in the past week, and asking myself a question. What does real strength look like in the light of coronavirus? We've seen many shows of strength in the past few days. The strength and determination of the NHS staff and the carers on the front line. The strength of those fighting the virus itself, and the strength of their family and friends. These are key. But there are many more overlooked expressions of strength. The teachers still working to care for vulnerable children and caring for the children of key workers. They're showing often unconsidered strength, as are the food producers and delivery drivers and the refuse workers and all those keeping us going. Theirs is an overlooked strength too. And then there's the strength shown in determination to keep our spirits up or enrich our experience in lockdown. Just look at that explosion of goodwill on the internet. Think of those creative musicians and artists and writers and dancers and teachers and bloggers and humorists and all those finding new ways of helping us to live as fully as we can in the face of lockdown. Some of this looks like sheer foolishness, especially wrapping vicars and over 55's belly in our house. But all of it shows faith of different kinds. Faith in people, faith in the strength of community. Some of it inspired by faith in a God who wills us to love. There have been some big public demonstrations of strength. There's the determination of those who want us to support those whose present experience is really hard. There are the organised efforts asking us to give to food banks and to support others in particular need. And there's the not so quiet show of strength and solidarity on Thursday nights as we clap for the NHS. And then there are the spontaneous outbursts of rainbows, a flourish of light in the face of darkness. Strength comes in many forms. What strikes me is that still, sometimes, like Jesus' Palm Sunday procession, it can take our hearts and our minds by surprise.